Today on the desk, we are looking at 3 true GMTs, from affordable to mid-tier to luxury. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Chase, and this is All Things Random, mostly watch reviews with some random stuff sprinkled in between. Before we get into the video, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything, but it really does help the channel. Also, it is spring here in the world, or at least in the northern hemisphere, in America, which is where I live. Clearly, the accent must give it away. Now, there's a spring sale for Chase straps. ChaseStraps.com, my own personal watch strap company. Down below, check it out. There is a discount. Now, like I mentioned in the beginning, we are looking at 3 true GMTs. So first, what is a true GMT? Outside of the term GMT being thrown around out there in the watch world and the interwebs. Well, a true GMT means that when you unscrew the crown and you pull it into the first position, only the hour hand moves. Now, this is so that if you're traveling through time zones, the watch will continue to tick, so the GMT hand stays on your home time zone, and the hour hand will then move to the time zone that you are entering. This allows the accuracy of the watch to continue to tick. All 3 watches are true GMTs. That's the important thing about me explaining that. None of these are GMT. They're all actually GMT watches. So what's the first one? The first one is going to be the most affordable one, coming in about $650, and that's going to be the Nezumi Stockholm Avera. Now, inside the Nezumi has a Miyota 9075 GMT movement. This has 42 hours of power reserve, 24 joules, a beat rate of 28,800 vibrations an hour, meaning that second hand ticks at 8 ticks a second, so it's very smooth. This is a premium movement from Miyota with an accuracy of -10 to +30 seconds a day. Now, this is a standard variation when it comes to accuracies on the more affordable watches. You see this on ETA 2824 movements and similar. Now, next is going to be the mid-tier, and that's going to be the Grand Seiko. Now, inside this Grand Seiko is the caliber 9F quartz movement, which means it's the only quartz movement here. But it's more than that, so don't discount it. Grand Seiko creates their own quartz crystals. The 9F is hand-built by 2 watchmakers, has 9 joules, and every watch owner wants what this watch has, which is a second hand that hits every marker. This is due to the backlash auto-adjust mechanism, guaranteeing that second hand hits every marker no matter what. And its accuracy is plus or minus 10 seconds a year. So that's less than 1 deviation of a second a month. This is going to be the most accurate watch in this lineup. And it's the most accurate watch in this lineup because of the 9F movement. So this watch comes in at about $3,400. So this is the mid-tier. So you have $650, $3,500, and now the most expensive one, the Explorer 2. Now, this has a robust caliber 3285. The caliber 3285 incorporates the Krone Energy Escapement patented by Rolex, which combines high energy efficiency with great dependability. Made with nickel phosphorus, it is also insensitive to magnetic interference. The movement has a power reserve of 70 hours, 31 joules, chronometer grade, meaning that it has a maximum deviation of -4 seconds to +6 seconds a day. This movement is in 16 different models, including all the Master GMTs and, of course, the Explorer 2s. And like I said, this is the most expensive watch, coming in at $9,800. We'll explain more in the end. The measurements of the Nezumi comes in at 40 millimeters in diameter, a thickness of 12 millimeters, a lug to lug of 47 millimeters, and a strap or lug width of 20 millimeters. 316L stainless steel is the case material with a fixed 24-hour bezel with a multi-linked bracelet that tapers down to a fold-over clasp. This is, of course, the more affordable. Now the Grand Seiko comes in at 39 millimeters in diameter, 12.3 millimeters thick, 45.8 millimeters lug to lug, and a strap width of 19 millimeters. A stainless steel case. The crown is at the 4 o'clock position, a 3-linked bracelet that tapers down to a double pusher clasp. The Explorer 2 comes in larger at 42 millimeters in diameter, and it is the largest watch here. 12 millimeters thick, so still pretty slim. A lug-to-lug of 50 millimeters, just under 50 millimeters, and a strap or lug width of 22 millimeters. Now, the case is made with oyster steel or 904L stainless steel, an oyster bracelet, and a classic Rolex fold-over clasp. Definitely larger than the other two, but it fits quite nicely on the wrist. The Nezumi is here in a black dial. The Grand Seiko actually is blue, but appears black in standard light. And of course, the polar dial. That was a less popular dial until the last few years when it made its resurgence. The most affordable here, of course, like I've said, is the Nezumi, but it offers 200 meters of water resistance. The Grand Seiko also boasts the same water resistance of 200 meters, whereas the Rolex only guarantees 100 meters of water resistance, which of course is still enough for the Explorer style that it offers. When you zoom out on all three watches, they each have pros and cons to each one. The Nezumi is not well known, but it offers a lot of bang for buck and a much more vintage-looking vibe. The Grand Seiko, a classic style watch with tech specs for the geek, a sleek style for a suit, but the ticking second hand may bother some people, and we'll talk about that. And of course, the Rolex, a name brand known around the world with a polar dial that is beautiful and stands out, in my opinion, of course, but is slightly larger on the wrist. And even when you look at the history, it is one of the more affordable models in the Rolex catalog. Now let's talk about my overall opinion on all three watches. Well, I do like the Nezumi because it does have a multi-link bracelet. It's extremely comfortable, and I do love the vintage vibe. I really do love the vintage vibe. I like the Grand Seiko that has become my newest favorite GMT. In fact, I'm traveling here soon, and I got the Grand Seiko GMT, so it can be my set it and forget it watch. Now, I mentioned that the ticking second hand may bother some people, and I can completely understand. When you see a quartz watch with a second hand that ticks, it feels cheap. It absolutely does. I can understand why the 9F quartz movement would turn some people off and why they would say, well, you should have just got a Grand Seiko spring drive with the smoothest second hand you've ever seen. I can understand that, but it's also more than twice as much. And I like the idea, like I said, of set it and forget it. I like the fact that I can take this Grand Seiko, put it in a watch box, not even a watch winder, but a watch box, and leave it for 9 months, and it'd still be accurate to just a couple seconds, which means that I only have to change the time on it when I'm changing time zones or I'm changing the battery, which is about every 3 to 4 years. And of course, then you have the Rolex. I get why people like Rolex. I like Rolex to an extent. Now, I've said this in the past. Rolex is great at branding, but they're not the best watch on the market. Now, the reason I put it in here is because I own one, and that's the only reason I put it in here as the luxury. All three of these watches I own, with the Nezumi pending for sale, because I decided to get rid of it because I got all these other GMT watches, and I wanted to make sure that the Grand Seiko stays in my watch collection. The Rolex Explorer 2 will also stay in my watch collection, but that being said, I understand why people like Rolex. But I've called Rolex in the past, and everybody can argue with me, it is the poor man's rich watch. It is very well known around the world, but it is not a luxury watch brand. It is only luxury because it has a crown on the dial. And it is very well known, right? You walk in and you got a $10,000 watch. Everybody knows it's $10,000 and you feel like you've made it. But rich people don't buy Rolex. Rich people buy Patek Philippe. They buy an Audemars Piguet, right? They buy an H. Moser. which will make very funny, sarcastic watches for $60,000, right? That's what rich people buy. They don't buy an Explorer 2. The people who buy the Submariners are the low class, right? The middle class to upper middle class who thinks that rich people purchase these watches. So buying one of these watches suddenly makes you seem like one of the wealthy. It's just a reality. Same thing with Coach. I just argued with my daughter. I didn't argue with her, but my daughter, who's 23 years old, just bought a Coach purse. And she's like, you like my Coach purse? And I was like, well, that's what poor people buy to make them seem rich. So you should have saved your money and just bought something else. Anyway, you guys may think that was tough, but it's true, right? People buy this stuff, especially the Rolex, because they think that's what wealthy people buy, and it's not. Wealthy people buy wealthier stuff, right? If you're wearing a Richard Mille that cost $1 million or even $300,000, that's a lot more high class than your best Skydweller. Even though the Skydweller has a lot more meticulous mechanisms in it, it's designed better, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because it's not ultra luxury, which is what the rich buy. They buy ultra luxury. So I added this in the luxury category, but I've always said in the past that if I were to compare this to a car, the Rolex to a car, it would be a Lexus, which is driven by a lot of middle class to upper middle class because they think Lexus is luxury. And it is luxurious, but it's not a Bentley. Anyway, what do you guys think about these three different tiers? We have affordable at $650, we have mid-tier at $3,400, and then we have luxury at about $9,800, depending on if you can buy it at an authorized dealer. Anyway, I'd love to hear your guys' opinions down in the comments below. If you're still here, I do appreciate it. Hit the subscribe button. Once again, check out Chase Straps, and I'll see you guys in the next one.